Welcome to the Starting Over Podcast. I am your host, Edward Shelton, aka Dark Logos, and this is the show where we look at the strategies, tactics, and mechanics behind the game of heroclix. It's cold. It's really cold. I don't know if you can sort of hear the heater in the background, but man, my feet are cold. I have them sitting on top of a blanket, wrapped up while I'm recording, so... the blanket is away from the heater, mind you. I'm not dumb, but yeah, it's definitely one of those situations where you can prevent forest fires, if you know what I mean. Anyway, today, pretty much what we're going to end up talking about is planning for the future of the meta and things that you can do and some little trends that I'm seeing right now from rocks, and then also from just the general landscape of the way that heroclix is going as a business and as a community. So what we're going to do, we're going to break it up into parts. The first part is going to be, sort of following the typical trend of what you as a player can prepare for yourself. Then we're going to move on and look at business, just business. Like I hate to say it like this. There's just so much business. And then finally on to meta. So personal business meta. Okay. So you're like, oh, you put all the candy at the end of the show. And I'm like, well, that's how I make sure you listen. That's how it goes. It's like this episode of Starting Over Podcast was brought to you by patience. Is it in you? Also, before we get into all that, if you want to hire me for your personal heroclix trainer, you can email me at startingoverpodcast@gmail.com, and then just say, hey, I want some training time, and then based on my schedule and availability and your availability, we'll set something up. All right, so let's get into it. Personally, the main thing I'm going to tell you right now that if you're going to advance in this game that you're probably going to get over is pretty much listening to the realms and the other websites to an extent. And what I mean is like this. 8C Realms and heroclix.com, not heroclix.com, what's that other website? I haven't worked for him in a long time. The Lee site. I forgot the Lee site. But anyway, there's some stupid stuff that goes on with the membership in the sense of like some antagonistic BS that folks put on. And that's the main stuff that you have to get over and really not listen to. If you want to go to the websites and get the information, I mean, fine. I mean, that's all cool. The sites for general information is pretty good. When it starts coming to the forum element of it, it's very toxic, and you really don't have time for that. Now, if you're a troll person, this is like a wonderland of, festers and mushrooms and other rotting, decaying things with buzzards flying in the air. But the main problem that I see that's going on right now that's really hurting a lot of players is not necessarily the lack of information, but character misinformation. And I do mean by character, not characters in the book, but characters of people. One thing that becomes really clear is the antagonistic nature of the internet, because it's the internet, and I get to be whoever I want to be on the internet, regardless of, what other folks say or whatnot. And it's like, I'm anonymous, so I get to disclose my pure feelings and show how disgusting I am with my inner humanity. That sort of element comes out a lot on definitely on AC Realms. On the general discussions in particular, but there's a few other sections. Like if you look at, and you can timestamp this, I'm recording this on Friday, February 6, 2015. Okay. Yeah, I know, a little lazy on the recording, but I recorded the core, earlier in the week, and then I had to work. So, bear with me. I'm cutting into my heroclix building time. So, because I got a game tonight, and I've sort of made a team, but I haven't like set it in stone. So, yeah, I tell you all not to do that, and that is true. But I have some tech that I was working on, and in the back of my head, and I'm just trying to solidify it a little bit. Anyway, sort of going back, the main thing that the problem with the websites right now, in the communities on the websites, is that they mainly are like, oh my gosh, the casuals, slap them fools. Oh my gosh, the meta people, slap them fools. Hate them. I hate this. My gosh, they can't do anything right. Blah, blah, blah. This sucks. Blah. Okay, so it's one thing. It's like, hey, this is a now and then thing. But the constant spewing of that just leads to a deeper and darker pit full of more and more anacondas and spiders and other stupid things that could eventually, just destroy you. And the one thing, I forgot what the poem was, is that excuses build monuments of nothingness in testament to the inward failings of people. It's something like that. My brother has this written up in his business office. But it's sort of like that. The whining and complaining is a testament of the excuses and weaknesses of the individuals of why they can't get better. They blame the dice, they blame WizKids, they blame the cheeser across the table, they blame the fact that the venue always plays these casual events and they don't have a time to get better. They blame everybody but themselves, and this is a grand place for them to do so. Even with like the 3 sponsored teams from HC Realms, producing content, there's nitpicking stuff, and then there's things in there that's just like, man, this is just bad. You're getting stuff for free, people trying to help you for free, people that don't have to help you, and because you have an axe to grind with the concept of meta, you're going to be a douchebag. Okay, so what does this do? Okay, one, getting help from a lot of these places is not necessarily impossible, but is definitely reduced. I know John Ed Schultz on AC Realms is probably one of the best posters on there if you want to learn some good elements of the game and have a positive interaction in the tactics section. There's very few other people on there that I really endorse anymore. It's a short list. It's a real short list. And so because of that, it creates a problem, because you have me, you have Dial H for heroclix. Whenever Apex Predators puts out a podcast, you have that. You can go and watch old World Championship games. But really, when it comes to having like personal help or just some, like a cool friend, you're sort of stuck in your local meta because you actually know those people. And so the next thing that sort of leads to is that you have to travel. You have to travel, whether it's to a WizKids Open, whether it's to a major convention, whether it's to a rock, or just like some small independent event that's being hosted by, some venue. You don't even have to go like out of state, just travel 2 or 3 hours to go to another venue just to play. Gain some insight, gain some friends, get some meta knowledge under you. We had some people from Springfield drive down to Kansas City, do War of Light. And it's easy to get in the tribalist mode. We as humans do it a lot more. And even with, Americans, we're like, rah, 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 America. Sometimes we're awesome because it's America. But then when you look at it, it's so many dumb faction stuff not even politics. It's like, I'm a feminist. I'm a men's rights movement activist. I like dogs. I like cats. I only shop at, earth-friendly stores. Give me my stuff cheap. And you'll see this infighting over people self-identifying with things in this factionhood in the midst of quote-unquote unity. So, the same thing happens in heroclix. It's like, I go to this venue. I go to that venue. I am definitely a meta player, my friend, oh, I am a casual of the upteenth degree. It's the same thing. And so you end up finding amongst every faction the radical douchebags. And really, the people that are most venomous, you have to look at them like jihadists. You really do. They don't necessarily recommend their faction, but they're pretty much the voice that everyone thinks of when they think of that faction. Same thing. Whether it's meta or casual, whether it's pro-rock, anti-rock, pro-whiz kids, anti-whiz kids, it's all the same thing. They're all jihadists, the way I look at it. Not too many people look at it and like, oh, this is business, this is rational, this is how everyone wins. Now, I'll say it to me about the show, okay? Have I had some extreme moments? Yes. Not going to front. But my main goal isn't to perpetually stay there. I will not lie, I probably had some douchebag moments. Probably have. But I'm not like perpetually knocking that down. So, going back, preparing yourself mentally, know who to hang out with, know who to interact with. There was like one philosopher that I was listening to, and he said something that sort of flies in the face of modern convention of total inclusivity of everything. He says, productive people guard their mind. And productive people watch not only what they think, but but also are mindful of what they think about. And so if your mind's bogged down of, can I play this piece? Will they think well of me? You're bogged down with stupid stuff. You got to drop that. So, all right, let's move on to the business end. First off, if you haven't gotten yourself some entities, buddy, man, now's the time. The suckers have dropped. I mean, the only time they're going to drop again is after they retire. So, I'm not going to front. Is this the dirtest, cheapest they're going to be? Probably now, considering that World Championships is in June, that definitely means that April and May, the prices are going to go back up. I'm just going to be honest with you. You're looking at $100 for, a Predator again, where you can get it for like 50. So 50 or 60 for a Predator. I've seen them float around there. So I went and snapped up one. I kid you not, I almost have a complete set. I thought about getting Ion, and I broke down and got Predator when I saw it was super cheap. But I've almost gotten Ion. Almost. I'm not quite there yet. So anyway, the prices of the entities are going down. Also, there's some other core meta figures that you probably want to go and pick up. I'm seeing a ton of Captain Marvel Prime. He's just way too much for the way things are right now. And there's a few other pieces like Proxima, and then everyone has Kyle, so Kyle's dirt cheap. I would say Jenny Sparks is definitely on a pickup. It's definitely something to pick up, but start looking at your buys. Really start looking at your buys, and here's why. If you're interested in flash set, I would definitely say don't buy flash. Put a freeze on your flash set buying until after, probably about 2 weeks after Trinity War drops. And if the prices will drop. That's what always happens. The prices will drop. How much if it's $1, $2 versus $5, $6, but prices will drop. The other thing that you can do is during the bidding wars, and this is why I say wait a week after the set has dropped, is because everyone is focusing their eBay time on snapping up the new hotness. Okay. And I've talked about this in the past, at nauseum. So everyone knows how I feel about the new hotness. This is your time to get what you need from the older sets. Definitely look at Deadpool, War of Light, Days of Futures Past, and Guardians of the Galaxy. Those are definitely key sets to be looking at. Definitely if you want to pick up some new product. Okay. Now, this sort of leads me back to something you do want to watch out from the new hotness, and that is the resources, because the resources are BS, because you only can get the stuff of the resources from the actual boosters. Now, here, bear in mind, I actually feel like your best option this time around is like week 1, try to get all the stuff for week 1, week 2, try to get all the stuff for the resources, because eventually something appears, and it's this grand trend of this one object for this one resource is super rare. So, for example, my power plant has probably cost me in total from start to finish about $100, because all those little rings are individual, and then 2 of those rings were insanely costed. Insane. Okay? But not only because of their power, but because they were rare. Did I know this going in? No. Okay? At one point in time where the price is a lot less? Yes. A lot less. Like by 2/3 less. So this is one of those few occasions, like if there's a resource involved, just go ahead and buy that. And then all those other individuals like, well, I'm going to go buy the resource, buy the brick, or buy the case, or blah, blah, blah. Those cats, you can get that one real cheap. But the Pandora's box stuff, that's sort of BS. That's going to be expensive. So just keep that in mind. Budget accordingly. Don't go broke. Don't go broke. Okay. And like I said again, don't go broke. The other money thing right now is you need to, and this is what I'm trying to do. You need to secure and have a positive relationship with a distributor. Let me phrase that, with a market faction that will distribute you stuff below MSRP, way below MSRP, not at cost. I'm not against. People might think I'm against people making money. I'm not against people making money. I'm against going broke, and I'm against some things in WizKid's business model that doesn't benefit the player and the business mutually. It just benefits WizKids. I'm against that. There's a lot of things that they do that just benefits them. It doesn't benefit us. It's like, oh, you play our little plastic crack game. Come over here and let me slap you on the butt as much as I want, because I give you plastic crack. Yeah, that's not fun. Anyway, so you need to find somebody to just be like, hey, I know you as a person. Can we work out a business deal? I'll buy this from you. Can you get me this at lower cost? If not, that's fine. I need other product from you. And then you just sort of have multiple people that you go around with. Now, you might say, well, hey, Dark Logos, I do that in trading. And I'm like, I understand. Trading is fine. And I'm not going against trading. But right now, even with a reduced amount of product coming out, it's still quite apparent that you need to have somebody looking out for your wallet. And that person is you, and you also need an ally in that. Now, note, there might be personal favors of the decent kind exchange, like fixing someone's computer or, helping them, move some boxes or whatever. But it's worth it so you don't, lose your personal money. Okay. So definitely look at that. I'm personally at this point in stage, have a good relationship with a particular individual and doing business with him. If I can advance in the future, hey, I might end up having 2 or 3 individuals I work with. So, but primarily I got one right now and it's working out. So there's that. And again, I said in the past, like, talk to your shop owner and be like, hey man, can I get a discount on this brick, on this case? Like, what can you afford as a store to give me? I'm not trying to cut deep into your product, your profit, but like, hey, I want to buy this much. I can afford this. Can you meet me there? And then they're going to be like, no, blah, blah here. Then what about there? Blah, blah here. Blah, blah, there, blah, blah. And then you eventually reach something of reason. Never start on like the absolute highest you can pay. That's just bad negotiations. You know, you just start at like, hey, this is a little bit crazy. Not super crazy to make you think that I'm not reasonable, but it's sort of obvious that I'm going to go up from here. That's what I do. And if they take it, if they jump on it, some people, their initial instinct is if someone jumps at a deal with the first offer, they're like, dang it, I could have gotten that for cheaper. And while that might be true, at the same time, they might realize that, okay, while mildly unreasonable, the initial gains of having you as a permanent customer is a lot better because the overall gains is in the favor of the store. It's the guy that tries to be excessively egocentric is the guy that screws it up. Okay? It's like, but the magic card is selling for $55.99 online and you're offering me $48. That's not enough. Dude, it's $7. $7. Like, really, are you going to be a douchebag over $7? You know, is that $7 going to get you that last card that you need to make your magic deck? Same thing in heroclix. I mean, it's like, is that $7 going to get you that last figure that you need to make your magic team? So a lot of folks don't look at business like that. Like, they're like, this is a hobby, man. It's like, no, this is life, fool. Like, you can't have this, how can I put it? You can't have this silly categorization. Yeah, categorization of life. That the elements of other things in life don't bleed into other categories. You can look at life as someone taking like those thin plastic circles that you had when you were a kid and you were in school. And then each one of those circles is a category, and then throwing them all up in the air and then watching them land on the ground. A lot of those categories are going to be independent, but most of those categories are going to overlap in very weird and awkward ways. And, money is part of it, You can't avoid the money aspect. You just can't. And you can't avoid looking at the place that you play at as both a business proposition and a fun proposition. And some people's like, well, when I think about money, I don't have fun. I'm like, well, shoot, when I think about spending my money, I think about having fun. I have fun when spending my money. Okay, if I had a problem having the concept of fun and money interact, I could not do anything that's fun that involves payment. So it's a logical quandary that just comes up, okay? Because if you're like, well, what about work and fun? And if you work, it's not fun. I'm like, well, I can work because I appreciate it. And you're saying like, if I have a job that I enjoy, that truthfully I'm insane because I'm working and having fun. So again, there's people trying to make arguments for values and categories being mutually exclusive, and they're not. It's only because they want them to be. Okay? Not because they are. It's only because they want them to be. All right. So there's a lot of stuff with the money. And again, always be trading, always be trading, always be trading. There's tons of cool websites for trading. I don't go to most of them because I have a rule. And my rule is this. If I buy it on eBay, I'm not going to trade it. Unless it reaches that mark of I'm just not playing it. If someone wants my T-Ray, yeah, man, we'll work something out. That was mea culpa because they freaking ruled it in a dumb way on. Oh, WizKids, you ruled that figure in such a dumb way. He could have been boss, but no, made him stupid. Anyway, sort of coming back around. Let's start looking at some meta stuff. What you have to be mindful, what I see coming down the pipe, what do you need to start being prepared for, and why is it important? Okay. First off, I want to say this. Yes, I'll change my mind, and yes, I'll give you new information as it comes. But I'm giving you some frameworks to see things so that you can be aware of them. Okay. Now, the first major figure that we're going to be looking at in property is WizKids saying F you to all that powers that I gave you and team abilities that I gave you because I can. There is a lot of, I take this away, I take that away. Hey, come over here. I'll slap you upside the head and take your lunch money. Come over here, baby. I'll give you a kiss. And then, give you a back rub. Oh, nope. Went and stole the keys to your house and ran away. There's a lot of that going on in the meta right now. Well, it's coming down the pipe. So, first off is that Catwoman. That Catwoman is the pure example of, hey, come over here, let me give you a kiss. Oh, I stole the keys to your house. Because being able to take away team abilities and say, hey, I'm adjacent to you, you can't use your team abilities, is killer. It's super strong on multiple fronts. First off, you have characters now that have team abilities built into powers, so now you can't access that. You have access to quintessence from the entities. Now you can't access that. You have ATAs, if you're able to magically use them. And of course, you can't access that. I think they just decided Catwoman's job in the DC universe is just to screw over people and to take stuff away from them. So, and the funny thing is, even if those things are not tangible, that's Catwoman's job. Sort of hilarious. So, we can start to see that we're in this weird position because Catwoman comes in and says, I take away your quintessence, I take away your mystics, I can't take away your scrolls, I take away this, I take away that, you can't use this, you can't use this other thing. And now we're stuck asking ourselves, what's the value of team abilities? And technically, Catwoman devalues that stock. Now, there's other things that you can consider as possible options. But in all honesty, if we're going to, look at the situation, we have to say the following. Catwoman forces metaplay to focus around the trait. And really, we've been going that way for a while, where traits being untargetable and unmessable with becomes this last bastion for WizKids to say, this is the heart of the character. The character is built to be this thing. You can't jack with that. Okay. Now, the other end of our sort of conundrum of taking stuff away with Catwoman is, let me give you the farm. It's like you have a rich uncle or aunt that died and said, Jimmy, I noticed that you were a poor man in life, but you had a good cut of your jib and you always paid your taxes and you never crossed the street in the wrong way and you took good care of your spouse. So Jimmy, here's all my lands and territory. Do with it what you will. And Jimmy might be ready for that, but Jimmy might not know what the heck to do with lands and territory because he's been a poor man his entire life. So you have that example with like Star Labs Tech. You have that example with Super Scroll in Engineer. And I'll admit, I was partially wrong about Engineer at 90 points. It's 4 clicks deep, but what people are doing with her is sort of interesting. We're just seeing these characters come in. It's like, yep, buddy, you get this. Now, before, when it was like Legion, it was fine because it was just Legion figures. So you had to have a keyword. You had a limited pool of guys to work with. And those little bonuses, they stacked up. I mean, but again, they're a cohesive team that didn't have a TA. And the only TA that they get access to 80% of the time is Superman TA, either from Superboy or from Supergirl, okay? Or it's like Legion Lost or one of those where they get to pick a DC team ability. And 9 times out of 10, it's either Batman or Mystics. That's it. And I mean, actually, that's not right. That's not right. It's not, that's not right. I forgot, there's one team ability that their ATA allows them. I know one of their ATAs allow them to pick something. Anyway, so there's a problem that we're having with give, the farm and lands to any figure, because now all of a sudden you have figures that just pop in. It's like, hey, guess what? You see your defenses there? You see your impervious and shape change? Yeah, you see that? Yeah, okay. I got something for you, man. I got Battle Fury and Precision Strike. What's up? What? It's like, yeah, I got Battle Fury and Precision Strike. What's up? Oh, okay. It's like, yeah, Super Scroll. I see you there. You got Super Senses Shape Change and Scrolls TA. I got Precision Strike Battle Fury for that butt. But I'm a Scroll. No, I got Precision Strike and Battle Fury for you. Okay. Take 5. Ha 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 ha. And then you go on with your entities and other stuff and your resources and blah, 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 blah. But we're starting to see a little bit of pushback, going back to the other extreme, with the previews that we saw with the 7 Deadly Sins and them just being able to say, hey, I give you 3 powers and your opponent can't use blah, blah, blah. So I think one of the core powers that we're going to see like taken away, we saw Shape Change get taken away by the Wrath one. Gluttony, I'm betting, is going to take away either Regen or Support. Let's see. Lust is probably going to take away Perplex. Let's see. And this is bad for the seminarian not to know 7 Deadly Sins off the top of his head without looking them up. Pride is probably going to take away Toughness or Invincible. Impervious or Invincible. Lust, Pride, Gluttony, Regen. Sloth is probably going to take away Hypersonic Speed and Charge. I got 4 of 3. This is bad. Okay. It's probably, I don't think Avarice is part of the 7 Deadly Sins. Oh, Greed. Yeah. Greed will probably take away Outwit. That's most likely what's going to happen. But now you're going to hear me type. Yep. And boom. Okay. And 7 Deadly Sins, Wikipedia. Ugh. There's also some comic called 7 Deadly Sins. Okay, so Lust, Perplex, Gluttony, most likely Regen, Greed, Outwit, Sloth, Charge, Hypersonic Speed, Wrath, Shape Change, Envy. Actually, Envy might be Outwit. And then Greed might be Prob. Pride is going to be Defense. So, yeah, I didn't do too bad. I forgot Envy. And, yeah, so I didn't do too bad. Because I did say, yeah, so I didn't do too bad. All right, so, anyway, when we look at that list there, it's sort of obvious, what our possibilities of what this resource with the Pandora's box could take away. Now, that's no guarantee, but then we also have to start looking at like what powers you can gain. Definitely with Pride, you have the potential of gaining a damage reduction. Wrath, Flurry, Charge, I can see that. Greed, probably probability control. Lust, I don't know. Steel energy. I don't know. But anyway, so we can see some options here that can pop up. But again, if we're taking powers away and we're following in that can't use category, which WizKids is getting really stupid on, because we all know that what's going to happen with that can't use. It's just going to, you're going to eventually come up with can use. And what happens with can use versus can't use? Like, they're going to make something to get around it, because they tried to make something where it says something can't be countered. Then, then I ignore it. Then, okay, then it can't be ignored. And it's like, now you can't use it. It's like, really, like, how many layers do we need on this? So going back to, hey guys, I steal powers, is that Tim guy that allows you to copy mystical characters, which at first it doesn't seem that awesome, but stack it up in a high enough point game with enough mysticals. Yeah, you trust me, it can get real stupid real fast. Oh, Wanda Watum, anyone? Haha, double perplexes. Oh, Adam Feats. Oh, guess what? Brilliant tactician for everybody. Cap stats for everybody. You see how stupid this can get real fast? So anyway, those are some key things. We're seeing, hey, I'm going to give you the ability to add whatever else you want to your characters, or add things to characters that they shouldn't have just because we can, or to counter that, just to take away things just because we can. So you're right in this fine line. Now, where does shenanigans and defensive play and aggro play come in the middle of all this? Really, we are in the high shenanigan wave. Okay, I thought we were going to hit. I thought we were going to hit the peak of that back with Highfather. And we saw a little of it in Flash. We didn't really see that much of it in Guardians of the Galaxy. A little bit with mainly, and we see him now, Captain Marvel. But really, when we think about it, WizKids is taking us through a shenanigan loop and trying to introduce aggro back into the game away from, technically we had a lot more defensive meta. No, I take that back. We had a lot more aggro meta. I forgot about the whole, like, Ghost Rider and team-based crap. And if you heard the squeaking, I got one of these, like, Zulu glass bottle things. It's like reinforced glass, so I've been drinking out of that instead of the plastic pitcher, because I was afraid the plastic pitcher, since it was from the 80s, probably had, like, BPH in there, and I was probably getting, like, micro cancer since the time I was 2 from that jug. So it's trying to reduce the use of it. Plus, my mom broke my glass jug, my classic Tang jug. You know how hard it is to get one of those now? Get a Tang anyway. And like 3 people on the planet know what Tang is. It's anyway. So what was I saying? As I'd like derailed myself. Anyway, where does aggro, shenanigans, and defensive play fit in all this? Right now, I would say you're looking at a high control game, a very high control meta. And we're definitely seeing this by you saying to your opponent, "I pick these powers. Boom. This is your first obstacle number 1. I bring in this other figure that takes away one of your options for you to deal with this power. Now you absolutely have to deal with this option that I have on the table. I've taken away your ability to ignore this option." Okay? That makes it very, very interesting. Okay? Very interesting. Because it's no longer about saying, oh, well, my opponent packed Pulse Wave, I'm done. It's like, well, I play this thing, you can't use Pulse Wave. Just period. You gotta deal with what's on the table, son. And it's like, oh, I do now, don't I? I'm like, yep, you do. Also, I realized I don't have Butcher. Yeah, I never really wanted Butcher. He sort of escaped me. Anyway, sorry. Again, sidetracked myself. So, you're looking at these different little realities here, because you're playing not just sort of, this hyper mental chess where you're thinking 4 or 5 moves ahead of your opponent. What you're also doing is saying, hey, no matter what you do, no matter what you bring, I'm going to have options of dodging it. Now, the cost that I think we're going to start seeing in the meta is, with all of this control, we're going to see more swarm. So Goku's freaking I play 15 guys tech is not dead. It's probably going to come back in more of a vengeance, which means that, yeah, you're playing a lot of fragile pieces, but a lot of those fragile pieces together and form God form Voltron. Okay, that, you know, with the freaking Megazord backup. That's pretty much what it is. All right, you know, with a little bit of Captain Planet in the reactor, just to make sure it's nice, clean energy. Okay, that's pretty much what you're looking at. And in disassembling that, do you start at the Power Ranger backup, the Voltron arm with the sword in it, or the source of power, which is, the Captain America not Captain America, Captain Planet reactor? What do you do? I mean, and those are the matchups that I fear in the future, because the needed level of understanding and complexity takes at least 2 or 3 games for you to crack it. Now, yeah, you could scout, but if you face it first or second round, you don't have that luxury for that. I mean, and you could try to look at the dials, and even if you know the figures really well, just understanding how it's played in relativity to the map is a whole different other subject. Yes, temp poles are very straightforward. Even Super Scroll and a little bit of backup is very straightforward. I either play Super Scroll one or two ways. I come in and bust you in the face and one-shot you, or I sit there and slow grind you and get all these tokens up so that when I do kill you, I get your guys back with 3 or 4 zombie tokens on them, so you're not like one shot at the moment you reappear. So there are a lot of cool elements right now. It's just the fact that, for a lack of a better word, or a lack of a better understanding, is the complexities needed to handle most things all of a sudden becomes more compounded, because you can apply softer, more fragile figures to create more complex initiatives for your gameplay and for your stratagems. Okay, so when we look at it like that, then it's like, oh my gosh, the noob looks at your team and is like, what the heck does this do? And you could tell them it's like it does like 15 different things, and you're probably only going to see 2. Like that's where I fear we're going. And part of that main reason why we can go that way is just for the pure fact that we have so much granting powers. It's because, okay, and let's just like break down dials real quick for a whole lot of people that don't understand like why dials are the way they are, why they point costed the way they are. Okay, so for those people who don't know this is like old school. I sit on top of the mountain as the old man that lived during the last war and saw it firsthand type of information. Okay, and I mainly say this because back during Armor Wars, there were conversations, open conversations with Seth, the game designer, when he first came in. He didn't leak the formula of, what is the secret sauce of WizKid's dial design. But, I mean, he did make it clear. And then also the interview I did with Norm, he didn't, again, leak dial design, but he did make some things clear. Okay. All right. So, first thing to understand is this: rarity dictates the strength of a figure. Okay, rarity dictates the strength of the figure. They usually do try to make 001 playable, functional, useful. But if 001, a common, was in a rare slot, it would be cheaper, or at the same cost have higher stats. If it was at the rare slot, again, it would be either cheaper, way cheaper, or have higher stats. If it was in super rare slot, it would be extra, super cheaper, and have the same stats or it would have or higher stats, way higher stats. And if it was in the chase, it would have probably the same stats as a super rare with a couple of mechanics tacked on to it. The primes, the main issue with the primes is either also based on their rarity, okay, how strong they can be, and then from WizKid's own admission, making sure that they have a mechanic that doesn't stack with another prime mechanic. So they want that mechanic that's in that character to be exclusive. You make your bet. This is your specification, you know, like in RPG terms, like you chose to be a Night Warrior Commander. That's what I picked in Dragon Age Inquisition. My mage wields a magic sword, fools. What's up? So I picked being, you know, Knight Commander. I got a magic sword. I can't be Necromancer. I can't be Riftwalker. That's what I picked. So you add in either something stupid that shouldn't exist in the game, or you make that guy stupid cheap, like Jubilee, Vampire Jubilee. Vampire Jubilee has no unique faculties whatsoever, but the fact that Vampire Jubilee is so cheap and how silly she can get is more of a testament than anything else. Okay, so when you look at that chases usually have a unique mechanic, are way super cheap for the cost, i.e., you know, Iron Pharaoh. I mean, come on, like that. Getting Iron Pharaoh's abilities for 110 points, that's at least 135, 145 point figure. You know, even with the nerfs, it's 135 to 145 point figure right there. Just with the range and the opening attack alone. So, coming back around. If we start to see, like, man, the meta is revolving around. Oh, I'm about to jump ahead of myself. All right, so that's your cost. Then when you break it down a bit more in your dial cost, you have your stats and your powers. And all the mathematicians on HC Realms and the conspiracy theorists have already determined the most expensive part of a character is not the stats. It's not the stats. It's the powers. So if you had opening click, sidestep, super strength, combat reflexes, and exploit weakness, okay, and you had all four of those powers on the opening click, and let's say you had 11 attack on that character. Okay, and it's like, wow, that's a lot. Take away two of those powers, up the attack to 12, same stats, and that character is going to be way cheaper. Same stats, up the attack to 12. Now, if I'm saving, hypothetically, not saving. Okay. If me having a power is costed out me having it per click, and it's weighted even more if I have it on the first click. That's why characters with activation clicks are stupid cheap for what they do. Okay. Because their first click is technically a weenie click, which is 85 to 90% of your, no, not that part. It's at least 50% of your cost, probably 35 of your upfront cost is you're paying for your first click because you're guaranteed to use that first click. Your opponent can't dictate anything to you on that first click. Every subsequent click, I said that word right, is up to the situation of the game and is more likely to be dictated by your opponent. That's why those powers after the first click are a lot cheaper. Okay. Now, if I'm paying for like an expensive power like Impervious is a very expensive power from what I think I remember from Absman saying. If I have a way to grant Impervious for, let's say, on a figure for their whole dial, if it was printed on their whole dial, from start to finish, guess what? The cost of that figure might be 100 to 150 points more than what it is printed. That's a lot. Now, look at your resources giving permanent powers. And then you start to realize that some of your prime powers, pulse wave, hypersonic speed, psychic blast, impervious, range combat expert, probability control, perplex, outwit. All of these are your prime powers, your core powers that you see in the game, are very expensive, insanely expensive. So expensive that you don't find characters with the whole dial. If you by chance have the ability of having those powers granted you through the whole dial, it raises the value of that figure to insane levels. Okay. Now you're starting to see why I'm having a minor gripe with the, hey, I can pick any power. Hey, I can get any power, or I can give you a power or these specific powers. Because let's say Precision Strike is not that expensive of a power. Okay. But once Star Labs Tech gives Precision Strike to, let's say, because I'm on this kick, we'll just say Super Scroll for right now. All right. Now, Super Scroll has access to whatever powers he picks plus Precision Strike. So now he can do like Charge Super Strength, Precision Strike with Exploit Weakness or Battle Fury. If he uses Battle Fury, he can pick up a extra Ultra Heavy, and his opponent can't evade his attacks. If his opponent has Impervious, he changes, and they don't have shape change, he can change, the Battle Fury for Prob or Exploit Weakness. Now, the value of Super Scroll is that, okay, he picks those 4 powers. He has a chance of taking damage. Okay, cool. But let's take the step back. If I'm able to grant, I just need Precision Strike. I don't need the Super Strength. By me just being granted Precision Strike means that the odds of Super Scroll taking damage afterwards is a lot less. So it's way less. So if the odds of him taking damage is now reduced, just due to the fact that I granted a power, just makes it, sillier. Now, take Super Scroll, once again, and up front, let's just say, I'm just for giggles. I'm saying for pure giggles, people, not necessarily because it's the best thing to do. I'm going to put the entity on Super Scroll. And I dropped my entity. Okay. All right. So I'm going to put the entity on Super Scroll. So now I start off with Prob. It sounds dumb. You would like, well, why don't you just use a Dara? Well, just say I got a Dara on somebody else. Okay. But so now I started off with Prob on my first click. And I have Prob or Perplex for a good chunk of my dial that Super Scroll would be alive. And, oh yeah, if I do happen to land on that stop click sort of thing, I still have access to regen. So now I can technically, just go ahead and pick straight up regen if I go on that dial click. I don't have to, and I can have invincibility and regen. Okay, so that's an option. All right, now take it another level. I add in a resource. Now I have access to probability control. I have access to Precision Strike, and let's say it's a power battery. So now I have access to, let's say, a Star Sapphire. So now I have access to Sniper Rifle. Now I have Scrolls, Mystics, Shape Change, okay, a 10 range from my 6. I have access to Prob, okay. I have access to Precision Strike, and then I also have access to any number of defensive powers. You could say, oh, I just assign the nurse to Super Scroll. Now he can regen whenever he wants to. Okay, cool. So you start to see when I add it up that Super Scroll's value technically is like 320 something points at that phase. But he's barely breaking like 250 with that combos that I'm talking about. So I've added over 60 points of value to Super Scroll just by doing all this stuff. Now, again, you might say, well, Super Scroll's a little bit extreme because he's a chase and blah, blah, blah. But that's part of my example. The point of the example is like how big of an issue chase rarity is. Even more so with Ultra Chase, even though they're like, well, we're not going to make it broken in meta. Whatever. My buttocks. Anyway. So when we all have these elements stack up, adding powers is the one thing that you need to look at, because if you have characters that are either able to pick the powers that they need in the situations that they need it, or characters that have very few powers and you're able to tack on powers to them, then you're seeing the increase of crazy value into figures. And it scales upward once you start dealing with figures of higher point cost. But usually the main point in 300 point games is that you start seeing figures that are 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, no more than 120. Start getting these added on effects. They start to do things that a figure that's 180, 190, 200 points does. So we're actually seeing an increase of value of almost 100 points in some cases. So it gets stupid. It gets stupid really fast. Definitely if you have any form of like charge, flurry, or able to make 2 attacks. Like there's like a 75 point group that's able to make 2 attacks. You know, you could just find ways to stack his stats and then give him like passive things that would go off when he would attack. Then bam, he's crazy. He's just crazy. Like, oh, I give you some more improved targeting. Oop, I made it so that, you know, you're able to outwit. Oop, I gave you more range. Oop, I made it so that you have shape change and super senses. Oop, I made it so now you ignore shape change and super senses. Like you start to see, like the 75 point figure example now can be worth 120, 125, maybe even upward to 135. Just for a few simple add-ons. And you might say, well, Dark Logos, you're talking about spending for entity and resources and blah, blah, blah. Technically, you're about spending that much. Really, almost. If I look at how much I spent versus how much I gained, I'm still coming into a net gain of like 20 to 30 points in most examples. When we start doing the math, if I say, like, this character would have these powers printed and these abilities printed, blah, 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 blah. And in part, that's to the fact that it's been admitted that resources are undercosted for the powers that they give. All resources are undercosted for the powers that they give. So a lot of folks don't understand that. And people think it's just some hyperbole that's been said. It's like, no, when you do the math and you actually look closely at it, they are way undercosted. All right, let me try to wrap this up because I've been on like a minor tirade for this last bit. The main other things that you really want to keep on top of, definitely when it comes to this upcoming meta, is look at all the figures that have effects that say, ha ha ha, I screw you, and then try to navigate around that. Are you going to be completely immune? No. The next thing that you need to start looking at is usually how you can solve for most shenanigan problems with force. Okay. The 2 hardest things in the meta that are going to be dealt with right now is strong shenanigans with strong offense and strong shenanigans with mild defense. And you might say, like, hold on, wait, that doesn't make sense. Here's why. Strong shenanigans with a high offense will allow for you to just say, screw you and your shenanigans, I just kill you. My shenanigans stay in place. So you are looking at more offensive shenanigans that would allow you to like take shots that you shouldn't, attack when you shouldn't, not take tokens when you shouldn't, make it so that your opponent takes more damage when they shouldn't, stuff like that. Okay, that a very strong shenanigan with a very strong offense means that you can't really afford to be hit. You're going in guns blazing, you know, and smoking a cigar with the Wild Earp hat on. You know, that's what you're doing. Okay. Now, The other end of a strong shenanigan and a high defense is this. You come back and you're able to say, my shenanigan hinders you so much, bogs down the game so much, that when all's said and done, I have you locked down. And I've killed very few pieces, but you can't kill enough of my pieces to win. Different mindsets. One is I'm going in for the wipe because I have no other choice. The other one is the wipe is not an option, so I'm very methodical and slow grind. I will have more coal dust at the end to light up in your face than you do. You're going to have 3rd degree burns. I'm going to have 1st degree burns. You know, you're going to be in a hospital ward getting a skin graft. I'm going to get some Neosporin and be rubbing it on my skin for the next 2 weeks. There's a big difference. Okay. So you might say, dark logos, man, then why can't I just go like crazy aggro and okay defense? Because the shenanigans are going to just shut you down. It just is. I do like the Goku method, which is I have more crap than you can apply most shenanigans to. But here is my concern with that. And just bear with me. If we get another shenanigan that's just flat out, blah, 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 your opponent's team, blah. I'm sorry, Swarm got kicked in the nuts again. So that methodology won't work. So just something to think about. Just something to think about. Also, there's that fun Rainbow Raider tech running around. Not necessarily I'm running it, but I do have to say it's pretty amusing. Oh, yeah. Oh, forgot. Black History Month. Black History Month, Black History Month, Black History Month. And Valentine's Day is coming up. Okay. Black History Month. One comic book character that everybody's probably want to check out, who's probably the star of, or is the 001 of the Justice League Trinity War set, is Black Lightning. A very classic character written by a African-American writer back when there weren't really any African-American writers in the comic book industry. He introduced a character primarily to do the Cosby effect, which is to show African Americans in a different light as positive, upstanding citizens. There were some things that happened with the Black Lightning character as that writer left DC that was really anti the spirit of Black Lightning. I think he had Thunder out of wedlock, was a child out of wedlock, which didn't go with any of the morals or values of Black Lightning. Another thing that got overlooked, and I didn't know this until I read the interview with the creator of Black Lightning. He said, the main goal of Black Lightning was for him to be a very religious, Christian religious, ethical, moral guide framework for looking at the culture that he was written in, which was like the late 70s, early 80s, I think it was late 70s, early 80s. I might be wrong on that one. But also sort of, again, to provide that upstanding citizen model so that African Americans have like another view into the comic world, which is, again, it's monumental for DC, because DC, like 80% of their characters are white or Caucasian focused. So anyway, that's it. Let's wrap this show up. You can subscribe. I like to thank some new subscribers. What's up with y'all? I've gotten a bunch of new subscribers here recently. Cap Kaboom, what's up, dog? And then, of course, like YouTube, like here we go. Lily Kai 13, what's up? And Go Corey, go, what's up? You're on the top of my email pool, so yeah. So anyway, you can follow me on Twitter at StartOverPod. It came from outer space. And it told me, yes, in space, there's this thing called Black Lightning, and it does something that you don't think it does. And trust me, you can't go home to mama after you're struck with it. You can find my random musings on Twitter. You can find out if a new show is coming out. More importantly, you can find out if there is going to be a show this week. Again, if you subscribe, it helps me upgrade my rankings on the YouTubes. And eventually, I'm working on it. And I'm not BSing this time. I am actively working on trying to get shirts for the show. I'm going to have shirts before Origins. I am going to go to Origins this year. I'm getting the money things together right now. But I am going to have shirts for the show. Now, tentatively, like in a month or so, probably not. But I need to talk to Mr. Joachim Adler and a few other folks about shirt distributions, monies, and paying people. So, because again, I do this show for a hobby as fun. At the same time, there's money involved and money exchanged hands. So, it's not all rainbows and candy canes but it's still fun because you gain skills that are marketable. Anyway, you can email me at startingoverpodcast@gmail.com. That's startingoverpodcast@gmail.com. If you wish to opine, keep it piffy, keep it interesting, keep it awesome, baby. If you want to hire me as a tutor, email me there. I would definitely say email me this week. What do you think about what's going on in Trinity War? Pretty much the set is spoiled, not the dials. Most of the set is spoiled. Did you get who you wanted? Was it a good reflection of the comic book arc? Or is this sort of like, blah, New 52 reboot crappy guys? Let me know. Also, been loving The Flash. Oh gosh, The Flash is so good. So good. It made me forget about Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So good. I love Barry on The Flash. And they give me villains. They give me super meta villains. They don't give me we got to go find this spy BS. No, they give me comic book villains doing superpower stuff. Yeah. All right. Anyway, you can check out the blog, startingoverpodcast.blogspot.com. You can donate to me that way. I'm not sure if it's better for me to keep doing that or try to do what's this thing called? Patron, I think. I don't know. I got to figure it out because it really just comes down to the cuts. Because you donate, PayPal takes their cut, I get the rest. It's not a huge cut, but I don't know if there's anything that I can get that's 99% or something like that. I don't know. It's just throwing ideas out there. All right. That's it. Thank you for listening. I got a team to build. And remember, we all have to start over sometime.